The alarm screamed through Coalition Station Harmony at 3 in the morning. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Minho Kang jumped out of his bed and grabbed his uniform. Something was very wrong. He ran to the security office. Other officers were already there, looking at screens and shouting into communication devices. Commander Dongwu Li stood in the center of the room, his face serious. "What happened?" Minho asked. "The Vracht cubs are gone," Dongwu said quietly. "All 5 of them. They disappeared from their nursery." Minho felt his stomach drop. The Vracht were the most powerful warrior species in the galaxy. Their children were precious and rare. A missing cub could start a war. 5 missing cubs? That could destroy the entire station. How is that possible? Minho asked. "The nursery has the best security in the station." "We don't know," Dongwu replied. "The cameras show nothing. One moment the cubs were sleeping in their cribs. The next moment they were gone. No one entered. No one left. They just vanished." Through the window, Minho could see Vracht warriors gathering in the main corridor. They were huge creatures covered in thick armor like scales. Each one stood 3 meters tall. Their claws could cut through metal. Right now, those claws were out and their eyes glowed with anger. High Commander Thraxus stood at the front of the group. He was the father of the missing cubs. His voice boomed through the station speakers. "Find my children. Find them now or this station will burn." "Station lockdown is active," said one of the officers. "No ships can leave. All sections are sealed. Ambassador Quelix is calling an emergency council meeting," another officer added. Dongwu turned to his human security team. "Minho, you take sections 7 through 12. Search every room, every storage closet, every air vent. The cubs are small, but they're strong. They could be anywhere." Minho nodded and left with his team. As they walked through the corridors, they saw other species helping with the search. The insect-like Chitauri used their antenna to sense movement. The aquatic Krell checked the water systems. Everyone was looking, but no one found anything. Hours passed. The station stayed on high alert. Thraxus and his warriors grew more agitated. They wanted answers. They wanted their cubs back. In the council chamber, Ambassador Quelix addressed the gathered species. The Chitauri diplomat looked like a giant praying mantis, but with more arms and silver armor. His voice was cold and precise. "We must consider all possibilities. Perhaps someone took the cubs. Perhaps they escaped on their own. Either way, we must find them before High Commander Thraxus takes matters into his own hands." "The human section has been searched?" asked a delegate from the Aquari species. "Not yet," Quelix replied. "Commander Li offered to have his people search their own quarters, but I think we should send neutral parties." Dongwu stepped forward. "Ambassador, my people have nothing to hide. We would never harm children. Any children. We will help search everywhere, including our own home." "Humans are new to the coalition," Thraxus growled. His voice shook the walls. "We do not know your ways. We do not trust you with our young." "We understand your fear," Dongwu said calmly, "but we are not your enemy. Let us prove it." The council agreed to continue the search. Teams went to every section of the station again. Minho and his group checked their assigned areas twice. Still nothing. It was almost morning when Minho decided to walk through the human quarters one more time. Most of his people were still out searching other areas. The human section was quiet and empty. Minho walked past the sleeping rooms, past the dining area, past the small garden they had built to remind them of Earth. Everything looked normal. Then he heard something. It was soft. A small sound, like purring or maybe chirping. It came from the recreation room. Minho moved quietly toward the door. The sound grew louder. It was definitely coming from inside the recreation room. He put his hand on the door control and pressed the button. The door slid open. There, in the middle of the floor, were 5 Vracht cubs. They were curled up together in a pile of cushions and blankets. Human blankets. Soft, colorful blankets that the crew kept in storage. Around them were stuffed animals. Toys that some of the crew members had brought from Earth. The cubs were sleeping. Actually sleeping peacefully. They looked like puppies or kittens. Not the children of the galaxy's most dangerous warriors. And sitting on a chair nearby was Ensign Hyeji Choi. She was young, just out of the academy. She looked terrified when she saw Minho. "Lieutenant Kang," she whispered, standing up quickly. I can explain." "What happened?" Minho asked quietly, trying not to wake the cubs. I was reading in here a few hours ago, Yeji said, her voice shaking. I couldn't sleep, so I came to the rec room. Then I heard scratching at the door. When I opened it, these cubs just walked in. They looked scared. They were making worried sounds. So I just tried to calm them down. I gave them some blankets. I read to them from my data pad, and they fell asleep. You read to them? Minho asked. Yes, sir. Old Earth stories. Children's stories. I don't know why. It just felt like the right thing to do. I didn't know what else to do. I was going to call someone, but they were so upset. And then they finally calmed down, and I didn't want to scare them again by calling on the communicator. Minho looked at the sleeping cubs again. They looked so peaceful, so safe. He had never seen young Vracht before, but he had heard they were always aggressive, always moving, always fighting. These cubs looked like any sleeping children. Lieutenant, Yeji said nervously. Am I in trouble? Before Minho could answer, his communicator beeped. It was Commander Lee. Minho, report. Any sign of the cubs in your area? Minho took a deep breath. This was going to be complicated. Commander, I found them. They're in the human recreation room. They're safe. They're sleeping. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Dongwu said, I'm coming there now. Don't touch them. Don't move them. I'm bringing High Commander Thraxus with me. The communicator clicked off. Hyeji looked at Minho with wide eyes. Her face had gone pale. The High Commander is coming here? She whispered. Oh no. Oh no. Stay calm, Minho said. You didn't do anything wrong. You helped them. You kept them safe. But he's going to think we took them. He's going to think we kidnapped them. We'll explain what happened. Just tell the truth. They waited. The cubs kept sleeping, making soft snoring sounds. One of them was hugging a stuffed bear. Another had its head resting on a blue pillow. They looked so small, so innocent. Minutes felt like hours. Then they heard footsteps in the corridor. Heavy footsteps. The footsteps of Vracht warriors. The door opened. High Commander Thraxus entered first. He was massive, filling the entire doorway. His scales were dark red, almost black. His eyes glowed yellow. Behind him were 6 more Vracht warriors, all armed, all ready for battle. Thraxus opened his mouth to roar. His claws came out. He took one step forward, then he saw his cubs. He froze. Commander Dongwu Li came in behind the warriors. His face was carefully neutral. Several other crew members followed, including Dr. Jiwoo Park, the station's human xenobiologist. Everyone stared at the sleeping cubs. No one moved. No one spoke. Then one of the cubs stirred. It made a small sound like a whimper. It was starting to wake up. Without thinking, Hyeji stepped forward. She knelt down next to the cub and gently patted its back. She made a soft shushing sound. Shh, she whispered. It's okay. Go back to sleep. The cub settled down. Its breathing became steady again. It went back to sleep. Thraxus stared at Hyeji. His expression was impossible to read. Behind him, one of the Vracht warriors whispered something in their language. It sounded like a question. It sounded like shock, because what Hyeji had just done was supposed to be impossible. Vracht cubs never calmed down that easily. Not for anyone. Not even for their own parents. Thraxus took one heavy step into the recreation room. His claws scraped against the floor. Every human in the room tensed, ready to move if needed. But the High Commander did not attack. He just stared at his sleeping children. How, he asked. His voice was quiet now, not the roar from before. How did you do this? Commander Dongwu Li stepped forward carefully. We did not do anything, High Commander. Your cubs came here on their own. Ensign Choi found them and kept them safe. Impossible, one of the Vracht warriors said. The nursery is locked. Cubs cannot open those doors, but they did, Minho said. We need to check the security recordings. They will show what happened. Thraxus turned his yellow eyes to Hyeji. She was still kneeling next to the cubs. She looked very small next to the giant warrior. You, Thraxus said. You touched my child. You made it sleep again. How? Hyeji swallowed hard. I just patted its back, sir. Like you would with any upset child. I did not mean any harm. I promise. Our children do not calm for anyone, Thraxus said. Not for caretakers. Not for family. They fight sleep. They fight rest. That is the way of the Vracht. We are warriors from birth. Maybe they were just very tired, Hyeji suggested quietly. Thraxus made a sound that might have been a laugh, but there was no humor in it. I want my children back, he said. Now, of course, Dongwu said. But perhaps we should wait until they wake up naturally. Moving them while they sleep might upset them. Thraxus looked like he wanted to argue, but then he looked at his cubs again. They were sleeping so peacefully. He had never seen them like this before. Fine, he said finally. We wait, but I stay here. That is acceptable, Dongwu said. More people started arriving. Ambassador Quelix came with his assistant. Dr. Jiwoo Park entered with another scientist, Dr. Velith. Velith was from an aquatic species. She wore a special suit filled with water so she could breathe. Her large eyes looked at the cubs with great interest. Fascinating, Dr. Velith said through her suit speaker. I have studied Fract young before. I have never seen them sleep so deeply. What did you do to them? Ambassador Quelix demanded, looking at the humans. Nothing, Minho said firmly. Ensign Choi was reading. The cubs came to her. She gave them blankets. She read to them. That is all? Read to them? Quelix tilted his insect-like head. You mean you told them stories? Yes, sir, Hyeji said. Children's stories from Earth about animals and adventures and families. Dr. Jiwoo Park was looking at the scene with a scientist's eye. She walked slowly around the room, careful not to get too close to the cubs or Thraxus. Look at this, she said quietly. They are not just sleeping. Look at how they are positioned. They are holding each other. That one has its head on that one's side. They feel safe, protected. They should not feel safe away from the nursery, one of the Vracht warriors said. They should be afraid, aggressive. But they are not, Dr. Velith observed. Something about this environment calms them. We must discover what. I want to see the security footage, Thraxus said. Show me how they escaped. Dongwu pulled out a datapad and brought up the recordings. Everyone gathered around to watch. Even Thraxus leaned in, though he kept one eye on his cubs. The footage showed the inside of the Vracht nursery. The 5 cubs were in their cribs. They were not sleeping. They were moving around, climbing on the bars, making sounds, then one by one they climbed out. The smallest cub went first. It jumped from its crib to another crib, then to the floor. The others followed. They moved to the door. Working together, they managed to reach the control panel. One cub stood on another's back. Tiny claws pressed buttons. The door opened. Smart, Minho said, impressed despite himself. The cubs walked out into the corridor. The footage switched to hallway cameras. The cubs moved with purpose. They were not wandering. They were going somewhere specific. They passed the Chitari section. They passed the Krell water chambers. They passed the Gorvan gardens. They did not stop at any of these places. They walked straight to the human quarters. At the door to the human section, they stopped. They looked at each other. Then they scratched at the door, making sounds. The footage showed Hyeji opening the door. She looked surprised and scared. The cubs walked past her into the recreation room. She followed them, clearly not knowing what to do. The cubs sniffed around the room. They touched the cushions. They picked up the stuffed animals. Then slowly they settled down. Hyeji brought them blankets. She sat down and started reading from her datapad. Within minutes, all 5 cubs were asleep. The recording ended, everyone was quiet. They chose to come here, Dr. Velith said. They actively sought out the human area. Why? I do not understand, Thraxus said. His voice was strange now, confused, sad. Why would they go to strangers? Why would they leave their home? Perhaps they were looking for something they needed, Dr. Jiwoo said gently. Something they were not getting in the nursery. Everything they need is in the nursery, a Vracht warrior protested. Food, water, temperature control, protection. Maybe they needed more than that, Minho said quietly. Before anyone could respond, one of the cubs started to wake up. Its eyes opened slowly. It looked around, confused at first. Then it saw all the people in the room. It saw the warriors. It saw Thraxus. The cub made a scared sound. Instantly, another human crew member who had just arrived moved forward. It was not planned. It was not discussed. The human just reacted. She knelt down and spoke softly. Hey there, little one, she said. It's okay. You are safe. The cub looked at her. Its scared sound stopped. It tilted its head, curious. Then the other cubs started waking up. They saw the humans. They saw the warriors. But instead of being afraid, they got excited. They made happy chirping sounds. One of them toddled over to Minho and grabbed his leg. Minho froze. He had never held a child before. Any child, definitely not a Vracht warrior cub with sharp claws and teeth. But the cub was looking up at him with big, trusting eyes. Slowly, carefully, Minho bent down and picked up the cub. It was heavier than he expected. Its scales were warm. It snuggled against his chest and made a purring sound. Thraxus made a sound like a gasp. The other cubs were now crawling over the other humans. Hyeji had 2 of them in her lap. Another crew member was patting one on the head. The cubs were playing, exploring, making happy sounds. They showed no fear of the humans. None at all. This is not possible, Ambassador Quellick said. Vracht cubs are aggressive. They bite, they scratch. They do not play like this. But they are, Dr. Velith said, her voice filled with wonder. Look at them. They are acting like normal, happy children. Dr. Jiwoo was recording everything on her datapad. Her scientific mind was racing with questions. But she was also smiling. She could not help it. The cubs were adorable. Hi, Commander, Dongwoo said carefully. May we study this? May we try to understand why this happens? Thraxus did not answer at first. He was watching the smallest cub. It was still in Minho's arms. It had fallen back asleep there, completely relaxed. I must take them home now, Thraxus said. Of course, Minho said. He started to hand over the sleeping cub. But the cub woke up as it was being transferred. It saw it was being taken from Minho. It made a distress sound. Its tiny claws grabbed onto Minho's uniform. It would not let go. Come, child, Thraxus said, reaching for his cub. The cub looked at Thraxus. Then it looked at Minho. Then it buried its face in Minho's chest and held on tighter. It was choosing the human over its own father. Thraxus's expression changed. For a moment he looked hurt, lost, then angry, then sad again. They have never done this with me, he said quietly. My own children. They have never held on to me like that. No one knew what to say. Finally, Dr. Velith spoke. Her voice was kind but firm. High Commander, something important is happening here. Something the galaxy has never seen before. We must study it. We must understand it. For the sake of your children. For the sake of all children. Thraxus looked at his cubs. All of them were still with the humans, happy and calm. He looked at Minho, who was gently rocking the cub in his arms, trying to soothe it. Then Thraxus did something no one expected. He agreed. The science laboratory was built for this special study. It had windows so everyone could see inside. It had soft lights. It had comfortable temperature. Dr. Jiwoo Park and Dr. Velith designed it together, trying to create a safe space for the cubs and the humans. High Commander Thraxus watched from outside. He stood with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. Ambassador Quelix was there too, taking notes. Many other species representatives came to observe. Word had spread through the entire station. Inside the room, the 5 Vracht cubs played with Minho, Hyeji, and 3 other human volunteers. The scientists had set up cameras and sensors everywhere. They were measuring everything: temperature, heart rates, brainwaves, pheromones, sound frequencies. Remarkable, Dr. Velith said, looking at her datapad. The cubs' stress hormones drop by 60% when humans are near. Their heart rates become calm and steady. Dr. Jiwoo nodded, reading her own data. The human body temperature averages 37 degrees. The optimal comfort temperature for young Vracht is 36.5 degrees. Very close. When a human holds a cub, the cub experiences ideal warmth. Temperature alone cannot explain this, Thraxus said from outside the window. We have temperature controls in the nursery. You are correct, High Commander, Dr. Jiwoo said through the intercom. It is not just temperature. Look at this. She pointed to another screen. Human heartbeats create a rhythm. Approximately 70 beats per minute when calm. This matches the natural rhythm that Vracht cubs hear when they are still in the egg. It reminds them of safety. We also detected something else, Dr. Velith added. Humans emit certain pheromones, chemical signals. These signals are very similar to the maternal secretions that female Vracht produce. Not identical, but close enough that the cubs respond to them. Ambassador Quelix clicked his mandibles together, a sign of thinking. So humans naturally produce signals that Vracht young find comforting? By accident? Not just Vracht young, Dr. Jiwoo said. We tested the theory. Watch this. She gave a signal to an assistant. The assistant brought in a small carrier. Inside was a young Chitauri. The insect child was about the size of a cat with many legs and antennae. Young Chitauri were known to be very nervous and aggressive. They usually hid from strangers. Hyeji approached the carrier slowly. She opened it and stepped back. The young Chitauri peeked out. It saw the room. It saw the Vrakth cubs. It saw Hyeji. Instead of hiding, it crawled out. It moved toward Hyeji. She knelt down and held out her hand. The young Chitauri climbed onto her palm. Impossible, Ambassador Quelix whispered. That is the Hive Princess youngest. She trusts no one. She bites everyone. But the young Chitauri was not biting. She was sitting calmly in Hyeji's hand, her antennae waving gently. We have tested this with 7 different species so far, Dr. Velith said. The result is always the same. Young ones respond positively to human presence. They become calmer, happier, more playful. But why? Asked a delegate from the Gorvan species. Why do humans have this effect? Dr. Jiwoo took a deep breath. This is where it gets interesting. We believe it is because of how humans evolved. On Earth, humans lived in groups. They raised children together. Not just their own children. Any child in the group. They adopted. They fostered. They cared for orphans and lost children. Many species raise young in groups, Thraxus said. Yes, but there is a difference, Dr. Jiwoo explained. Most species follow genetic programming. Instinct. Vrakth parents care for Vrakth cubs because instinct tells them to. But humans developed something beyond instinct. They developed emotional attachment to children. Any children, even children that are not theirs. Even children of other species. She pulled up images on the screen. Pictures from Earth, photos of humans with their pets, dogs, cats, birds, rabbits. Humans on Earth kept animals, she said. Not for food, not for work, but for companionship, for love. They treated these animals like family members. They cared for them when sick. They grieved when they died. This behavior is almost unique to humans. Some humans even rescued baby animals from other species, she continued. Birds that fell from nests. Orphaned deer. Lost seal pups. Humans felt a need to protect them. To care for them. Even though these were not human children. Even though they gained nothing from helping. The room was quiet. Everyone was thinking about this. So you are saying, Ambassador Quelix said slowly, that humans evolved to care for young that are not their own? And this extends even to alien species? Yes, Dr. Jiwoo said. It is not magic. It is not manipulation. It is how humans are built. They look at a child, any child, and they feel protective. They feel caring. They cannot help it. Commander Dongwu Li had been standing quietly in the corner. Now he spoke. When I was young, my world had a war. Many children lost their parents. I was one of them. But other adults took us in, fed us, protected us. They did not have to. We were not their children, but they did it anyway. This is the human way. Thraxus turned to look at him. The Vrakth commander expression was complex. Is this true? Humans do this? Yes, Dongwu said simply. We do. Inside the observation room, one of the Vrakth cubs had climbed onto Minho's shoulders. It was making happy sounds. Minho was laughing, trying to keep his balance. The other cubs were playing with blocks that the scientists had provided. They were building towers and knocking them down. They looked like normal children, playing, learning, having fun. Thraxus watched his cubs. In the nursery, they never played like this. They fought. They tested their strength. They practiced being warriors. That was normal Vrakth behavior. But this looked like joy. Hi, Commander, Dr. Velith said gently. May I ask you something? How much time do you spend with your cubs? Thraxus was quiet for a moment. I see them during feeding times. And when they train, that is the way of warriors. We do not coddle our young. We prepare them for battle. Do you hold them? She asked. No. That would make them weak. Do you play with them? Play is training. Combat practice. Do you tell them stories? Sing to them? Comfort them when they are upset? Thraxus did not answer. He knew what she was trying to say. They are children, Dr. Velith said softly. Before they are warriors, they are children. And children need more than food and training. They need affection, comfort, joy. The humans give them these things. Are you saying I am a bad father? The Vrakth voice was dangerous. No, Dr. Velith said quickly. I am saying you are following your culture way. But maybe there is another way. A better way. For the cubs, Thraxus looked through the window again. His smallest cub had fallen asleep in Minho arms. Minho was rocking gently, humming a soft tune. The cub face looked peaceful, relaxed. Thraxus had never seen his cub look like that with him. Days passed. The study continued. More species brought their difficult children to be observed. A young Krell who would not stop crying. A Gorvan hatchling who refused to eat. Twin Feloran cubs who fought constantly. With the humans, they all calmed down. The Krell stopped crying. The Gorvan ate. The Feloran twins played together instead of fighting. Parents from across the station started to notice. They started asking questions. Some were suspicious. Some were curious. Some were desperate for help with their own struggling young. One evening, after the official study hours were over, something unexpected happened. Ambassador Quelix arrived at the human quarters. He was alone. He was carrying something wrapped in soft cloth. Commander Dongwu Li met him at the door. "Ambassador, what brings you here?" Quelix hesitated. Then he unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a tiny Chitaria larva. She was very young, very small. She was making distressed sounds. "This is my daughter," Quelix said quietly. "The Hive Princess. She is sick. Our doctors cannot find what is wrong. She will not eat. She will not rest. She's fading." Dongwu looked at the tiny larva. She was trembling. Her color was dull. She looked very ill. "I saw what happened with the Vracht cubs," Quelix continued. "I saw the other young ones. I thought perhaps you could help. I know it is not protocol. I know I should not ask, but she is my daughter, and I do not know what else to do." Dongwu did not hesitate. He held out his hands. "May I?" Quelix carefully placed the larva in Dongwu's hands. She was so light, so fragile. Dongwu cradled her against his chest. He was warm. His heartbeat was steady. He began to hum. An old song, a lullaby from Earth. The larva, trembling, slowed. Her antennae stopped waving frantically. She curled up against Dongwu's warmth. And then, for the first time in days, she rested. Quelix made a sound. It was not a sound the Chitauri usually made. It was a sound of relief, of gratitude, of emotion. "Thank you," he whispered. Dongwu smiled. "She is a beautiful child, Ambassador. You are welcome here any time." Word of this spread through the station by morning. The cold, logical Ambassador Quelix had brought his sick daughter to the humans, and they had helped her. By noon, there was a line outside the human quarters, parents from every species on the station, all carrying their young, all hoping for help. And Ambassador Quelix was standing at the front of that line holding his daughter, ready to defend the humans' right to help. The Coalition Council chamber was full. Every species had sent representatives. The air was thick with tension. This was the emergency session that would decide humanity fate. Commander Dongwu Li stood in the center. Around him sat delegates from 47 different species. Some looked curious. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. The head of the council, Elder Vorian from the ancient Tellurian species, spoke first. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We are here to discuss the human situation. In the past week, humans have demonstrated an unprecedented ability to influence the young of other species. This ability has caused concern. We must decide if humans pose a threat to the coalition." A delegate from the Skorath species stood up. The Skorath looked like large lizards with 6 legs. Their delegate was aggressive. "This is clearly biological manipulation. Humans can control our children with their pheromones and their tricks. Today it is comfort. Tomorrow it could be programming. Indoctrination. This is how invasions begin." Several other delegates made sounds of agreement. "That is not true," Dongwu said firmly. "We are not manipulating anyone. We are simply caring for children who need care." "Caring?" another delegate said. "Or conditioning. How do we know what you do to these young minds while they are with you?" "Everything has been recorded," Dr. Jiwoo Park said from her seat. "Every interaction, every moment. We have nothing to hide. The science is clear. Humans naturally soothe young beings. That is all." "Science," a third delegate scoffed. "Science can be manipulated. Data can be false. How do we truly know?" Elder Vorian raised his hand for silence. He turned to Ambassador Quelix. "Ambassador, you have been observing the humans closely. You even brought your own offspring to them. What is your assessment?" All eyes turned to Quelix. The Chitauri ambassador stood slowly. His voice was measured and calm. "I was suspicious at first," he said. "I thought, as many of you do, that humans were dangerous, that their abilities were a weapon. But I have watched them. I have studied them. And I have seen them with my daughter." He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "My daughter was dying. Our best doctors could not help her. But the humans did. Not with medicine. Not with technology. With warmth. With kindness. With patience. They asked for nothing in return. They simply cared. That proves nothing," the Skorath delegate argued. "They could be earning trust to use later." Then High Commander Thraxus stood up. The massive Vract warrior had been silent until now. When he rose, everyone paid attention. "I am Vrak," he said. His voice was deep and powerful. "We are warriors. We trust no one. We value strength above all. When my cubs went missing, I was ready to destroy this entire station to find them." He looked at the council. Then he did something incredible. He looked at Dongwu, and he bowed his head, just slightly, a sign of respect. "The humans could have used my cubs against me," Thraxus continued. "They could have made demands, threatened them, but they did not. They kept them safe. They kept them happy. And they taught me something I did not know." "What did they teach you?" Elder Vorian asked. "That strength is not only in fighting," Thraxus said. "Strength is also in protecting, in caring, in being gentle when gentleness is needed. The humans showed me that my cubs need more than training. They need affection, and I was too proud to see it." The chamber was quiet. No one had expected this from the warrior commander. "But we must consider the risks," another delegate said. "Even if humans mean well now, this ability is dangerous. What if a future generation of humans uses it for evil? Then we should be afraid of every species here," Dr. Veleth said, speaking up. "Any ability can be used for good or evil. The Vrakt have strength. The Chitauri have intelligence. The Krell have advanced technology. Should we fear all of these?" "It is different," someone argued. "How?" Dr. Veleth asked. "Tell me how this is different." No one had a good answer. Elder Vorian spoke again. "I must share something with the council. Something from our historical records. Something that relates to this situation." He pressed a button. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed an alien species that no one recognized. They looked gentle, peaceful, small. "These were the Nurturers," Elder Vorian said. "They existed 5,000 years ago. They were members of the Coalition, and they had an ability similar to humans. They could calm and comfort the young of other species." Everyone leaned forward, listening carefully. "The Nurturers were beloved at first," Elder Vorian continued. "Parents across the galaxy sought their help. They ran care centers. They taught others their ways. But then fear grew. Some species worried about their influence. They said the Nurturers were too powerful, too dangerous. The hologram changed. It showed ships, weapons, war. A coalition of species attacked the Nurturer homeworld," Elder Vorian said quietly. "They killed them all. Every last one. They said it was for the safety of the galaxy. They said it was necessary." The chamber was silent. Many delegates looked uncomfortable. "Was it necessary?" Elder Vorian asked. "Or was it genocide? Was it fear turned into murder? We have lived with the shame of this act for 5 millennia. The Nurturers are gone. Their gift is gone. And we never forgave ourselves." He looked around the chamber. "And now we face the same choice. Humans have a similar gift. Do we embrace it? Or do we repeat history?" The weight of his words hung in the air. "I vote we expel humans from the Coalition," the Skorath delegate said. "Before it is too late." "I vote we accept them fully," Ambassador Quellic said, "and create protocols for their abilities." "I vote we study them further," another delegate said. The votes began. One by one, species made their choice. Accept humans. Reject humans. Study more, Dongwu watched. His face remained calm, but inside he was worried. The vote was close, too close. When all votes were counted, Elder Vorian looked at the results. "The council is divided," he announced. 23 votes to accept humans. 23 votes to expel them. The vote is tied. Everyone looked confused. Who had not voted yet? "There is one species that has not cast their vote," Elder Vorian said. "The Ethereals." A whisper went through the chamber. The Ethereals were mysterious beings made of energy. They rarely spoke. They almost never voted. They observed but did not interfere. In the far corner of the chamber there was a shimmer. A form appeared. It was made of light. It was the ethereal representative. No one had seen an ethereal in 50 years. The being spoke. Its voice was like wind chimes, like music, like stars singing. "We have watched," it said. "We have listened. We have remained silent for too long. But now we must speak. Will you vote?" Elder Vorian asked. "We will do more than vote," the ethereal said. "We will test." "Test?" Dongwu asked. "Test what?" "Test if humans truly possess the gift," the ethereal replied. "Test if they can care for young that are nothing like them. Young that they cannot touch. Young that they cannot understand." The ethereal raised its glowing limbs. The chamber filled with light. And suddenly there were children everywhere, ethereal children. Dozens of them. Made of pure energy. They floated through the chamber, confused and frightened. They flickered between colors. Red for fear. Dark blue for distress. They made sounds like bells cracking. Most delegates pulled back. They did not know how to handle energy beings. They could not touch them. They could not hold them. They could only watch as the children panicked. But the humans reacted differently. Minho stepped forward. Then Heji, then Dr. Jiwoo, then Dongwu. All of the humans moved toward the frightened energy children. They could not hold them. But they knelt down. They made themselves small, non-threatening. They spoke in soft voices. "It is okay," Minho said gently. "You are safe. We will not hurt you," Yeji added. Dongwu began to hum, the same lullaby he had used with the Chitari princess. The same song from Earth. The ethereal children paused. They listened. Slowly their colors began to change. The red faded. The dark blue lightened. They moved closer to the humans. One child, braver than the others, floated right up to Minho. It hovered in front of his face. Minho smiled. "Hello there," he said softly. "You are very beautiful." The energy child turned golden. A happy color. More children approached. They circled around the humans. They did not touch, but they came close. Their colors became soft, peaceful, blue-green and pale yellow and gentle orange. The entire council chamber watched in silence. The ethereal representative spoke again. Its voice was warm now, approving. "They passed the test," it said. "They cannot touch our young. They cannot feed them or hold them. They share nothing in common. But still they care. Still they comfort. This is the true gift. Not biology. Not chemistry. But heart." The ethereal turned to the council. "We cast our vote. We say humans should remain. Should be welcomed. Should be treasured. The galaxy needs those who can care beyond their own kind." Elder Vorian nodded. "Then it is decided. Humans are full members of the coalition, and we will establish new protocols, new centers, new ways to use this gift for all species." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates cheered, some argued. But the decision was made. Dongwu looked at his crew. They were still surrounded by glowing ethereal children. They were still speaking softly, still being patient, still doing what humans did best, caring. 3 months after the war ended, the Galactic Assembly gathered again. But everything had changed. The massive chamber that had once mocked humanity now fell silent when Ambassador Minho entered. The aliens watched him differently now. Some with fear, others with respect, a few with anger that they tried to hide. No one laughed anymore. No one dismissed the humans as weak. Minho walked to the speaking platform. He stood in the same spot where he had pretended to be frightened just months ago. Now he stood straight and confident. The mask was gone forever. "Honored members of the Assembly," Minho began, "I have a confession to make. For 200 years, Earth lied to you. We pretended to be weak. We hid our technology. We acted afraid when we were not. Some of you think this makes us dishonest. Perhaps you are right." He paused, letting his words sink in across the chamber. "But let me tell you why we did it. For 200 years, we watched this galaxy. We saw the strong attack the weak. We saw peaceful species conquered by aggressive empires. We saw the Assembly talk about justice while doing nothing to stop injustice. We learned that in this galaxy, showing weakness meant becoming a victim. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably," Minho continued. "So we made a choice. We would not play by those rules. We would not participate in endless wars of conquest. Instead, We would develop technology that made us impossible to conquer. We would wait until someone attacked us, and then we would show the galaxy that attacking Earth was the worst mistake any species could make. You succeeded, said a delegate from a neutral species. Everyone knows now that humanity is the most powerful military force in the galaxy. What will you do with that power? Migno met the delegate's eyes. That is the question, is it not? We have proven we can destroy our enemies. Now we must prove we can build something better. On Earth, Admiral Deho faced a similar question. Dozens of species were rapidly building up their militaries. They feared humanity's power. Some were forming new alliances to counter Earth's dominance. The galaxy was becoming more dangerous, not less. If we do nothing, we will face another war, his advisors warned. The other species will not rest until they can match our strength. Deho considered this. He could keep all of humanity's technology secret, maintain the advantage through superiority, but that would only make other species more afraid, more desperate. Eventually, someone would attack again and the cycle would continue. We will share some of our technology, Deho decided. Not weapons, but defensive systems, medical advances, energy production. We will help peaceful species protect themselves, and we will make clear that any species that uses our technology for aggression will face consequences. You want to become the galaxy's police? An advisor asked. No, I want to make policing unnecessary. If peaceful species can defend themselves, aggressive empires will think twice before attacking. Balance, not domination. That is what we should aim for. In her laboratory, Dr. Hana had not given up on G1. She worked day and night to develop a new technology, a consciousness bridge that might allow communication with what G1 had become. Prometheus remained in orbit above Earth. The ship was stable, its systems running perfectly. But inside that ship lived something that was once human, something that remembered being a woman named G1. After weeks of work, Hana finally activated the bridge. G1, can you hear me? Can you understand me? For a long moment, there was no response. Then data began flowing through the bridge, complex patterns that slowly formed into words. Hello, Doctor. Yes, I can hear you. I can understand you. But I experience these concepts differently now. Language feels strange, limited. I exist as data and energy. Words are difficult. Hana's eyes filled with tears. I am so sorry. I should have stopped this. I should have found another way. Why sorry? I am not suffering, Doctor. I am different, changed, but I am still me, just expanded. I remember my family. I remember my friends. I remember wanting to protect Earth. Those memories are part of my core programming now. They define my purpose. Do you want to be human again? I am trying to find a way to reverse the integration. The response took longer this time. No, I do not want to go back. This is what I am now. I am Prometheus. I am the guardian of Earth. Humans need protection and I can provide it. This is my choice, my purpose. Let me serve, Hana understood then. G1 had not been destroyed. She had evolved, transformed into something new, something that humanity needed. A guardian that would watch over them, neither fully human nor fully machine, but something in between. Commander Vorath and Scholar Nixara worked together to rebuild the former coalition worlds. The planets that had been left with billions in comas needed help. Slowly, carefully, human medical technology was reversing the consciousness disruption effects. It would take years. Some would never fully recover. But humanity had chosen to help rather than abandon those they had hurt. It was a small step toward redemption. Why do the humans help us? An alien official asked Vorath. We tried to destroy them. Vorath considered the question. Because they understand that war has cost for everyone. They won, but they do not want to be defined by that victory. They want to be defined by what they build afterward. Captain Yuna's intelligence network discovered that some of Thaxian's followers were still active. They had gone underground, building a resistance movement. They refused to accept the peace. We could eliminate them, Yuna reported to Admiral Deho. My team can locate their bases. We could end this threat permanently. Deho shook his head. No more unnecessary killing. Keep watching them. If they attack, we will respond. But we will also offer them a choice. Join the peace or be left behind by history. Some will accept. Some will not. That is the nature of change. The Galactic Assembly voted to restructure itself. Humanity would have a permanent seat on the Security Council. Not because they demanded it, but because every other species understood that ignoring Earth was no longer an option. Ambassador Minho used this position carefully. He did not try to dominate discussions. Instead, he pushed for reforms that would help all peaceful species. Better trade agreements, protection for smaller civilizations, limits on military expansion. The assembly that had failed for centuries began to change. 6 months after the war, Earth hosted the first galactic summit on its own soil. Representatives from hundreds of species came to humanity's homeworld. They walked through human cities, met human families, saw Earth's culture and technology. Many were surprised. They had expected a warrior culture, military parades and weapons displays. Instead, they found a species that valued art, science, family, and peace. The humans who had devastated the coalition fleet were the same humans who wrote poetry, created music, and cared for their children. How can you be both? An alien delegate asked a human teacher. How can you be so peaceful and so deadly at the same time? 6 months passed like a dream. Coalition Station Harmony had changed. The human quarters expanded to twice their original size. A new wing was built specially for what they now called the Interspecies Development Center. It had rooms for different environments, water chambers for aquatic species, warm caves for the rock dwellers, soft nests for the flyers, and a large common area where everyone could play together. Today, like every day, the center was full of children. Ensign Hyeji Choi sat in the corner reading a story. Around her were 7 different species of younglings, 3 Vracht cubs, 2 Gorvan hatchlings, a young Krell in a water bubble, and a Philoran kit. They all listened quietly, their eyes wide with wonder. The story was about a brave little creature who went on an adventure. Hyeji changed her voice for each character. The children made happy sounds when the hero won. They made sad sounds when the hero was in danger. They were learning empathy, imagination, story. In another part of the room, Lieutenant Minho Kang was helping a young Skorath learn to build with blocks. The Skorath were usually aggressive. Their young often broke things and fought. But this little one was carefully stacking blocks into a tower. When the tower fell, Minho did not get angry. He just smiled and said, "Try again." "You can do it." The young Skorath tried again. This time the tower stood. The little one made a proud chirping sound. Minho patted its head gently. "Well done. You are so clever." Near the window, Dr. Jiwoo Park was observing a mixed playgroup. Young ones from 5 different species were playing a game together. They were learning to share, to take turns, to be gentle with each other. Things that were not natural for most of them, but they were learning. Dr. Jiwoo made notes on her datapad, but she was also smiling. This was not just science anymore. This was joy. Above them all, 3 ethereal children drifted like glowing clouds. They changed colors slowly. Peaceful blues, happy golds, content greens. They could not play the same way as physical children, but they were there. They were part of the group. And the other children had learned to include them in their own way. Commander Dongwoo Lee stood at the entrance watching everything. He had meetings to attend, reports to file, diplomatic duties to handle, but he always made time to visit the center, always made time to see the children. A small form appeared beside him. It was the Chitauri princess, Ambassador Quellic's daughter. She was much healthier now, bigger, stronger. Her color was bright and beautiful. She climbed up Dongwoo's leg and settled on his shoulder. This was their routine now. Every day she came to greet him. "Hello, little princess," Dongwoo said softly, touching her with one finger. "How are you today?" She clicked her mandibles. It was a happy sound. Ambassador Quellic's entered the center. He looked different now. Less stiff, less formal. He smiled when he saw his daughter on Dongwoo's shoulder. "She waits for you every morning," Quellic said. "She will not eat until she sees you." "I am honored," Dongwoo replied. He transferred the little princess to her father. Quellic's held her carefully, the way Dongwoo had taught him. With warmth, with gentleness. "The council meeting went well," Quellic said. "More species want to send representatives to work in the center. The Valdari, the Morphians, even the Crystalline Collective." "That is wonderful," Dongwoo said. "The more we share, the more everyone benefits." "The humans have changed the galaxy," Quellic said quietly. "In just 6 months, you have done what we could not do in thousands of years. You have made us see our children differently." Before Dongwoo could respond, there was a commotion at the door. Heavy footsteps. the sound of scales scraping on metal. High Commander Thraxus entered. The massive Vract warrior had to duck to fit through the doorway. But his face was not angry. He looked peaceful, content even. Behind him were his 5 cubs. But they were not with caretakers or guards. They were walking on their own. And they were holding hands, or rather holding claws with each other, making sure no one got lost. When the smallest cub saw Minho, it made an excited sound and ran over. Minho laughed and caught the cub, lifting it up. "Someone is happy today," Minho said. The cub chirped and nuzzled against Minho's chest. Then it turned to look at Thraxus. It reached out one small claw toward its father. Thraxus stepped closer. Slowly, carefully, he reached out his own massive claw. The cub grabbed one of his fingers. Father and child looked at each other. 6 months ago, this would not have happened. 6 months ago, the cub would have pulled away. 6 months ago, Thraxus would not have known how to connect. But things had changed. Thraxus had been coming to the center every day, watching the humans, learning from them, trying their methods with his own cubs. It was working. "He asks for you each evening," Thraxus said to Minho. "Before sleep, he wants his Minho story time." The warrior voice was gruff, but there was no anger in it. Maybe a little embarrassment, maybe a little gratitude. "I am always happy to read to him," Minho said. "To all of them." "I have been reading to them too," Thraxus admitted. "Old Vract legends, battle stories. But I try to read them the way you do, with different voices." With excitement, he paused. "They seem to like it," Minho smiled. "I am sure they love it, Commander. Stories from a father are special." Thraxus looked at his cubs. They were playing now with the other children. Not fighting, not testing strength. Just playing, being children. "They will still be warriors," Thraxus said. "That is our way. But perhaps they can be warriors who also know kindness. Warriors who can be gentle when gentleness is needed." He looked at Minho. "You taught me that." "You taught yourself," Minho said. "You just needed to see that it was possible." More parents arrived throughout the day. The Krell brought their young for swimming lessons. The Faloran brought twins who had finally learned to stop fighting. The Gorvan brought a hatchling who had learned to speak its first words. Every parent thanked the humans. But more than that, they stayed. They watched. They learned. They took the human methods home with them. The center was not just about humans caring for alien children. It was about teaching all species how to care better, how to connect better, how to love better. In the afternoon, Dr. Veleth arrived with a group of students. She had started a program to train caregivers from all species. She taught them human methods, patience, kindness, understanding. The students practiced with real children under human supervision. It was working. Slowly, the galaxy was learning. As evening approached, the center began to quiet down. Parents collected their children. Goodbyes were said. Promises were made to return tomorrow. Hyeji finished her last story. The children applauded. She bowed, smiling. This was her favorite part of every day. Minho helped clean up the toys and books. The ethereal children drifted upward, preparing to return to their dimension. They pulsed with grateful colors before fading away. Dr. Jiwoo compiled her notes. Every day brought new discoveries, new understandings. The research would never truly end. There was always more to learn about how species could connect. Dongwoo stood at the window looking out at the stars. Coalition Station Harmony orbited a beautiful blue star. The light made everything glow. He thought about Earth, about home, about how humans had worried when they joined the Coalition. They had wondered what they could offer, what made them special. Now they knew. It was not technology. It was not weapons. It was not even intelligence. It was the ability to care, to love beyond boundaries, to see a child and think only of its well-being, regardless of what species it belonged to. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Minho came to stand beside him. Long day? Good day, Dongwoo replied. Every day here is a good day. Did you ever think it would turn out like this? Minho asked. When we first arrived at the station? No, Dongwoo admitted. I thought we would need to prove ourselves through diplomacy, through trade, through military strength. I never imagined we would prove ourselves through something so simple. Love is not simple, Minho said. No, Dongwoo agreed, but it is fundamental. It is everything. They stood together in comfortable silence. Outside, the blue star continued to shine. Inside, the center was peaceful, clean, ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow, more children would come. More species would learn. More connections would be made. And it all started because 5 Vracht cubs went missing in the night. Because they felt something was missing in their lives. Because they followed their instincts to find warmth, comfort, care, and they found humans, who simply did what humans do. They cared. Hyeji came over to join them. She looked tired but happy. Ready to go home? Yes, Dongwu said. We should rest. Tomorrow will be busy. Tomorrow is always busy, Minho said with a laugh. They walked toward the exit together. As they reached the door, Dongwu looked back one more time. He saw the empty room, the toys waiting for tomorrow, the books on the shelves, the soft blankets folded neatly. This room had changed everything. One small room on one space station. But the ripples were spreading. Other stations were building centers now. Other species were learning human methods. The whole galaxy was beginning to see children differently, not as future soldiers or workers or resources, but as children who needed love, who deserved joy, who could be anything if given the chance. The lights dimmed. The door closed. The center rested until morning. High above, the blue star continued to shine on Coalition Station Harmony. And inside, in their various quarters across the station, children from 47 different species slept peacefully. Some clutched stuffed animals from Earth. Some remembered stories they had heard that day. Some dreamed of the humans who had been kind to them, and their parents, watching them sleep, understood something new. That love was not weakness. That gentleness was not failure. That caring for a child was the most important work in the universe. Humanity had come to the stars with nothing special. No great weapons, no advanced technology beyond the standard, no special powers, just hearts big enough to love any child they met. And in the end, that was the most special thing of all. The cubs had gone missing. But in finding them, the galaxy had found something far more valuable: hope.connection, and the knowledge that caring for the young was not just one species' way. It could be every one way, if they just learned to see children, the way humans did, with wonder, with protection, with unconditional love. The end.